Hey everybody, welcome back to Occult Perspectives. It's been a little while since I posted a video. I want to say it's been about a week and a half. I've just been really busy with work, music, and other things, so I'm excited to get things rolling again. I decided to go ahead and jump back to Morals and Dogma. So this video is entitled Morals and Dogma Part 2. We covered the first 4 pages in the first video, so if you want to get caught up, go ahead and watch that video. You can watch, start at this video if you want to, but it might be a little confusing and out of context if you don't go back and watch the first one. Something I didn't mention about Albert Pike in the last video, I think he was one of the founders of a certain secret society called Knights of the Golden Circle. And these guys were really heavily involved. There was a lot of Confederate stuff going on that they didn't want other people to know about, because Albert Pike was a general he was one of the main generals in the Confederate Army in the Civil War. And there was a lot of stuff going on in the background, and I think those guys were partially responsible. Maybe you'd have to do more research on the conspiracy, because I'm no expert on this. I've only heard of it briefly and looked it up briefly, but they may have been behind Abraham Lincoln's assassination, because Abraham Lincoln wanted to invent greenbacks, which is an interest-free currency and totally goes against the central bank thing. So it seems that Albert Pike was possibly wanting to maintain this central bank thing, which is continued in today, which is interesting. And Albert Pike also does some kind of he has like predictions on the 3 world wars, which is interesting, because the first 2, if you look at the details that he explains of the first 2 world wars, and this was like way back before they both happened, like in the 1800s, he gives some details that are pretty close. I mean, it's pretty spot on. I don't think we're going to have a 3rd World War manifested. I think we are already in the process of manifesting heaven on earth. It's been ordained. This is the new Aeon of Horus, the age of Aquarius, and things are really looking up, as much as the illusion or the outer self would have us think otherwise. So continuing on page 5, we were talking about the force of the people, or the popular will in action. It's symbolized by the gavel, and it's regulated by the 24-inch rule. And those are 2 of the working tools in the apprentice degree, or the 1st degree of Freemasonry. The product is liberty, equality, and fraternity. So there's a couple things I wanted to cover here. The 24-inch gauge and the common gavel, those 2 tools, kind of roughly what they symbolize. The 24-inch gauge, it's a way to like regulate our lives and balance things, because it's split into 3 parts. It's split into 3 8 inches. So you've got 8, 16, and then 24. And you would divide a part of the day for rest, and refreshment. The rest is service or devotion towards God, or like other members of the human family, or just being good to the world in general, doing some good, whatever that may be, inspire others. And then the other portion is just like your normal daily vocation, so like work or whatever it is that you need to keep things running and going, eating your food and making sure you're staying healthy, and exercise, and I guess that could all be included in that. But basically the 24-inch gauge, it's a way to divide up your day. And there's more symbolical significances, you'll learn on later on as you do deeper esoteric research. The gavel is basically a symbol which symbolizes you take the stone, and you keep, chipping away at it and such until you get like basically a smooth stone. It chips away the vices and irregularities and the bad things of life, away to make way for that, that diamond in the rough, so to speak, that lies underneath the statue, if you will, if we're going to use a metaphor. Or we're chipping away to reveal what our true character is. We're getting rid of all the extra superfluous stuff and getting straight to the essence. Liberty, equality, and fraternity, these are all three very good things. And the product, it says, of, using the 24-inch gauge and gavel, acting within the limits of law and order, and has for its fruits liberty, equality, and fraternity. These are normally good aspects, but they can also be used in a negative or dark way. If you've ever read the Ayn Rand book Anthem, some of the names of the characters in there, like I remember Liberty, some number, they had like numbers associated with their names. They didn't have real names in the story. I don't want to give away too much, but basically the people in the book have lost their rights. They're part of what would essentially be super socialistic or communistic society. It's all completely controlled, and the people don't even have real names anymore. But some of the guys' names are Liberty, and I think they maybe even have equality and fraternity as two of the other guys' names in that story. So I think that's really interesting. So if you want to see what a brotherhood does when it's used the knowledge in like a bad way to subdue mankind, not subdue mankind, but really to just keep them from any gnosis or knowledge of themselves, that would be a really good example in that book of like a dark brotherhood or a negative aspect to those qualities. But here it goes on to say, liberty regulated by law, equality of rights in the eye of the law, brotherhood with its duties and obligations as well as its benefits. And here, the next symbol, we're going to get into the rough ashlar and the perfect ashlar. And it's basically like a cube of stone, and one's like real rough looking around the edges, and it's just not symmetrical. And then the perfect ashlar, the name suggests, it's a perfect. It's all its sides are smooth and it's been polished, and kind of that metaphor of the chipping away at the stone with the gavel kind of idea until we get to the pure essence of the thing. So this would be the perfect ashlar. The rough ashlar is the force of the people, a mass unorganized. The perfect ashlar is the state cube. This represents equally distributed powers. Although in the New Age, I added as a side note here, this is not part of the book, but Albert Pike was surely aware of the New Age dawning upon mankind. Although in the New Age, man shall govern himself. Each man will be a microcosmic temple. As I said already, the perfect ashlar is like a sculpture, self-improvement, sculpting away at the masterpiece you truly are, and getting rid of what doesn't need to be there. Okay. So we went over the rough ashlar and the perfect ashlar, kind of the symbology of those right there. Interesting that the perfect ashlar or cubical stone symbol of perfection is the state. Now, when people say they live in a state, what does that mean? Like, people don't even think about the symbology of that a lot of the time. Like, we live in the state of Ohio, like a state of something. Like, people don't think of, like water, like its states are liquid, solid, and gas. So Ohio has its laws, and each state has its laws, which, remember, these are just imaginary territorial lines, because those things aren't really existing in nature. We're just putting those names and those titles on areas and calling them that. And that's where we seem to like get caught up in that these things are set laws. Like, these are not laws of the universe, folks. Like, the way the system's set up, it's very matrix, it's very archonic. You need some form of regulation or rule, as we're reading here, to balance out the forces, but it's kind of very unbalanced in that kind of way right now, where the state, it's just too solid and there's no flow to anything anymore. Everybody's so uptight, everybody's shut away in a box. This is not a balance of dualities. This is very much leaning to one side, and sometimes it leans towards the other side, but it always seems to be in this negative way. We need to stop feeding this cycle, transcend this. But yeah, it's just the symbology of the state, like the state of something. And as I like to joke all the time, the state, like, the state says that. The state of what? Chaos? Because the state really is supposed to have order, but as we're clearly seeing, it's not. Like, we're trying to have all this order, but that's because we're trying to use too much control rather than actually educate and liberate people and allow them to become governors of themselves. And if we're all self-governing, we can have a lot more respect for each other and give each other space and such, because everyone will be, taking care of themselves and essentially self-sufficient, and then we can really work outwards and help everyone from there. I do this a lot. I get sidetracked, but I feel like these things need to be said. I'm going to go ahead and go over the the explanation of the cubes are given here on the rest of page 5, so I'm just going to run over that real quick. You've got your typical cube shape here. And, yeah, there's the gavel and the 24-inch gauge, too. I think I showed it in maybe the first video, too. I'll try to remember to show you guys all the little pictures that are in this book. There's not too many, but getting back to the cube. We have visible 3 faces and 9 external lines drawn between 7 points. The complete cube has 3 more faces, making 6, 3 more lines, making 12, and 1 more point, making 8. As the number 12 includes the sacred numbers 3, 5, 7, and 3 times 3, or 9, and is produced by adding the sacred number 3 to 9, while its own 2 figures, 1 to the second, its own 2 figures, 1 to the unit or monad, and duad added together make the same sacred number 3. It was called the perfect number, and the cube became the symbol of perfection, produced by force, acting by rule, hammered in accordance with lines measured by the gauge. Out of the rough ashlar, it is an appropriate symbol of the force of the people. And it goes on here to explain, the force of the people expressed as the Constitution and law of the state, and then it explains, as we learned in elementary school, the real jobs of the 3 departments: executive branch, which executes the laws; legislative, which makes them; and judiciary, which interprets the laws. But it's this threefold, symbolic, like we see the symbolic, the use of 3 all the time. And once again, liberty, equality, and fraternity, the threefold soul of the state, its vitality, spirit, and intellect. Okay. So in my version of the book, which is an older print, as you can tell, I'm on page 6 right now. Oh yeah, another thing about the cube is I forgot to mention that the lines on the cube, I'm not sure which lines they're talking about, but the 3, I guess 1, 2, 3, a lot of this stuff is confusing to me when it's a little bit over my head, a lot of the sacred number stuff and gematria and stuff. Sometimes it's explained pretty simply, and then other times, like in this section of the book, it's a little more difficult to understand. But the lines of the cube are also symbolical of these branches of government. Okay, I wrote in my notes here, I wrote real brief notes for page 6. Pike begins to talk about the power of prayer here, and he starts to get into the Hermetic law of mentalism. He doesn't say that's what it is in this page. I'm going to go ahead and read you a little bit, but that's definitely what he's talking about. Also gets into the love and faith that go into it, rather than just the start and end goals. So it's more about the process itself, not just like, life is an input and output system, but without experience, that's why we're here, in the material plane, is to experience life and experience the physical. Let's see. He's talking about the one supreme deity. Prayer is an essential part of the ceremonies as a Mason. The aspiration of the soul towards the absolute and infinite intelligence, the one supreme deity, most feebly and misunderstandingly characterized as an architect. Yeah, the architect thing's just symbolic. Like, they just, architect of the universe, supreme architect of the universe. Masonry uses that symbolically so that it kind of works with all faiths. It can work with, Christianity, Judaism, Islam. I don't really follow any religion per se. I follow more the natural laws, but it's all talking about the same thing. That's what people really get stuck up on like one tradition or, whatever, but it's all the arrows are pointing to the same direction. We were talking about prayer. Certain faculties of man are directed towards the unknown: thought, meditation, prayer. The unknown is an ocean of which conscience is the compass. Thought, meditation, prayer are the great mysterious pointings of the needle. It is a spiritual magnetism that thus connects the human soul with the deity. These majestic irradiations of the soul pierce through the shadow towards the light. I guess I could go on and read a little bit more of this page because it is pretty profound the way he words it. It is but a shallow scoff to say that prayer is absurd, because it is not possible for us, by means of it, to persuade God to change his plans. He produces foreknown and foreintended effects by the instrumentality of the forces of nature, all of which are his forces. Our own are part of these, our free agency and our will, our forces. Will is a force, so likewise if we pray, will is a force. Thought is a force, prayer is a force. Why should it not be that the law of God, that prayer, like faith and love, should have its effects? Or why should it not be that the law of God, that prayer, like faith and love, should have its effects? Man is not to be comprehended as a starting point or progress as a goal without those two great forces, faith and love. So, it's important to remember, and as you're driving forward in these goals, your ambitions, you're this pure, burning, radiating light of joy as you go forth into the cosmos to spread your love and abundance and light. Some people will get too distracted on the objective and they forget to kind of slow down, and you have to put this faith and this love into the equation. Otherwise, you're not going to get the richness of the experience. And I think that's really what the true treasure of Freemasonry is. A lot of people think it's like a physical thing, which, as we talked in the Hiram videos, there are physical treasures, with the Templars and stuff. But it's more about the treasure within, the arcanum or the arcanum within. The treasure trove of love and the memories that we share with others. All these things, they're internal treasures that lie with us forever. Okay, and then this is something interesting that I always come back to, and I think about this almost every day when I put thoughts out into the universe, even, unintentional ones. If they're negative, I try not to do that. But he says here, after this, talking about to deny the efficacy of prayers, to deny that of faith, love, and effort. Yet the effects produced when our hand, moved by our will, launches a pebble into the ocean, never ceases, and every uttered word is registered for eternity upon the invisible air. So everything that's ever been said, I talk about this in the Akashic records, it's out there, like it's already been. But this doesn't mean that we should not focus on that which was, because it is always now. We're just different versions of ourselves learning through this experience, and that's basically what it is. We're all different versions of ourselves from Supreme Source Consciousness, which is it's like a reflection at us, but it's like a reflection back too, as people have tried to explain it to me. It's not just like a one-way thing. It's like this continuous flow. Always trying to learn more about that. Okay. So that covers page 6. Let's go ahead and go to page 7. Every lodge is a temple, and as a whole, and in its detail, symbolic. So the Masonic Lodge, or any temple, or any kind of place where you would hold ritual or do any kinds of those, magical operations, if you want to use that term, it's just a microcosmic representation of the universe. It's symbolic of the universe. And so, as these physical temples are, so are our internal temples. And this really gives more meaning to the phrase, as above, so below. There's a lot of meaning to that. A lot of different meanings. He goes into, on the top of page 7 here, the arrangements of the Temple of Solomon. Everything, the symbolic ornaments which formed its chief decorations and the dress of the high priest all had reference to the order of the universe as then understood at the time. many emblems of the seasons like the sun, the moon, the planets, etc. And then here is an interesting, it also adds the constellation Ursa Major and Minor, the zodiac, the elements, and the other parts of the world. So all these things, all these symbols are contained within the temple in one manner or another. It is the master of this lodge of the universe, Hermes, of whom Kurum. So Kurum is like one of the true, I believe Kurum is one of the, and I don't know if I'm saying that right, Khurum is one of the alternative names of the real name, one of the real names of Hiram Abiff. So it is the master of this lodge of the universe, Hermes, of whom Kurum is the representative. That is one of the lights of the lodge. Okay, so that gives us a little more detailed description of the lights of the lodge. Sometimes we get really, even Albert Pike goes in a little detail here, how the normal explanations of those things in the lodge often are kind of watered down quite a bit. When he talks about, if you want to know more about the symbolism, be patient until you advance more in masonry. More knowledge, will be given to you as you. It's not even so much about receiving degrees. That really doesn't mean anything. I joined the Scottish Rite, and I've gotten a whole bunch of degrees there, but that doesn't make me a better person. It's in any way. It's about what you do with the information and the experience that you receive, in ritual and in ceremony, Masonic and otherwise, It's all about what we do with the information. We're going to make a better world. I say yes. Okay. A lodge is defined as an assemblage of Freemasons duly congregated, having the sacred writing square and compass, and a charter or warrant of constitution authority. I cannot read today. Guess I'm just impatient after work. Didn't really work too long today. A lodge is defined to be an assemblage of Freemasons duly congregated, having the sacred writing square and compass, and a charter or warrant of constitution authorizing them to work. There we go. And there's slightly different versions of that, in different rituals. Every state kind of has their own different version. They all vary, just usually pretty minor. There's some things are bigger, differences, and other things are just really, really minor differences. Okay, so we go on here. This is pretty important. It is said to be, here we go. The room or the place in which they meet represents King Solomon's temple, called the Lodge, and that's not what we are now considering. It is said to be supported by three great columns: wisdom, force or strength, and beauty, represented by the three officers of the Lodge, the master, the senior warden, and the junior warden. Wisdom, strength, and beauty. And these are, the foundations of like any society. It says in Masonry, you need wisdom to understand. You need strength to be able to have the strength to get through. And beauty is like the form. The ceremony it's a beautiful ceremony. There's, without form, without the beauty, and we can think of the element as water, as a vessel being filled, life is kind of boring and dull without beauty. Okay, and then I also added a side note here. Strength and force are the same thing on the tree of life. They're synonymous. Frater Xavier. If you've not heard of Frater Xavier, he has a YouTube playlist called Mystery School, but his actual YouTube channel is called Mind and Magic. Check him out. I've been watching his stuff for years. He has really good knowledge. So we were talking about those three columns. You got them right here also. Wisdom, well, they are termed a little bit different here. You've got wisdom. Hold on just a moment. Yeah, this is the pillar of mercy. This is the pillar of severity. So the female, the yang is severity, and the masculine pole is mercy. And then this would be Boaz, Jachin, there's two pillars. And then in the middle is the path of mildness. And that's really, it's the center path that ultimately leads to the top. You can go other ways, but there's the connection right there. They talk about the middle path a whole bunch. There's a lot of symbology in that. Okay. So the reason I said that strength and force are the same thing, Gabura, strength, and this really does represent like physical force. It's just, even though it's interesting because you've got that on the female pole, but then you've got mercy over here on the masculine pole. But there is also that old saying that within the most masculine of things lies the feminine, and within the most feminine of things lies the most masculine. So there really is some deep mystery to that. It really, we can imagine this whole system is just kind of merging into one thing, and at the end of the day, that's what it all is. That's what all of this is. It all merges into one at the end. I believe there's a Grateful Dead song that has lyrics along those lines. And actually just want to go ahead and, while I'm at it, go ahead and make a shout out to my good brother Tom. He was the bass player in our Grateful Dead cover band called Terrapin Moon. I just heard yesterday that he passed away. I don't really like to use the words passed away. He has moved on. Death is just a messenger. It's okay to get sad. It's okay to cry. It's natural to feel those things. We need to get them out of our systems. But at the end of the day, death is just a messenger that comes here to transform us, to help transform us into our next experience. So we're not really going anywhere. I like to, clarify that in a lot of my videos. We are infinite experience or consciousness having a physical experience here in these bodies and in this physical world. But Tom, he's a great guy. We had a lot of deep conversations about, esoteric stuff like this. I'm really going to miss him. So I love you, Tom. I know you are with us. So there is no doubt, just because I can't physically see or hear you, I love you, man. So I just wanted to get that out real quick. Getting back to this, though. Wisdom, strength, and beauty. So here you've got wisdom at the top, which is technically Hokmah, which is the second Sephiroth. It's not the name of the whole pillar, but it does kind of work out. So we'll say that this one, strength, is going to have to definitely be this pillar. I guess we could say that maybe beauty would be represented by this if we're doing the Masonic triad, because the Worshipful Master represents the pillar of wisdom, so I would assume that would be the middle pillar if we're going to equate it to the 3 pillars on the Tree of Life. But anyway, I just wanted to go over that, and then I had mentioned Frater Xavier in his YouTube channel real quick. He talks about combining force with form. This is so important because all of ritual work, you're putting the force out there. You're putting, as we said before, we were talking about meditation, thought, prayer. You're putting the thought out there into the universe. You're putting the intent, and combine this force, sending this consciousness out with a form. And that's just what ceremony and ritual is for, is so that that energy that's being put out is put into the right conduits. It's being channeled into the right, the way that you want to. It's not just crazy wild energy being dispersed, as we, in the last Morals and Dogma, we talked about like sports events and such. A true wizard truly knows how to control his energy. Wizard, which, whatever you are, doesn't matter, whatever you want to call yourself. But combine force with form, that's what that means. one of the meanings of it anyway. Okay, we're going to go ahead and just finish up this page real quick because we are at 30 minutes now. At the bottom of page 7, Apostle Paul, let me go ahead and just read the little bit that comes before this. Oh, I guess that's where it starts. Know ye not, says the Apostle Paul, that ye are the temple of God, and that the Spirit of God dwelleth in you? If any man desecrate the temple of God, him shall God destroy. For the temple of God is holy, which temple ye are. So this is really profound. Our bodies are temples, and if we don't take care of them, you know, in meditation, yoga, all these things, ritual, they all help to, you know, transmute the body and, you know, keep everything pure. Eat good foods, be around good people, be around good energy. If you're around the right people, if you're where you're supposed to be, you should feel pretty at ease. You should not be at dis-ease. You should be at ease. Let's see. Alrighty. I guess I'll go ahead and go to the top of page 8. Oh no, I did, I left a little note in here, so I'll just go ahead and finish that up real quick, and then we'll start at the top of page 8 next time. I wrote an extra note here, don't destroy the temple. And even when the temple is destroyed, the physical temple or otherwise spiritual temple, you know, you feel like you're going crazy or whatever, even then it can still be rebuilt. And there's a huge metaphor with this behind the story of Hiram Abiff, which I'm not going to get into. Those of you who are already Masons, you will definitely understand this. Even if the temple is destroyed, it can be rebuilt, and it has been rebuilt. We've seen that with the various King Solomon temples. And I want to, you know, kind of inspire people with my story. I had a hernia surgery, and I want to say, if it's 2021 now, this had to have been back, gosh, it had to have been, I want to say 2017, maybe early 2018, so it's been a little while now. It's been a few years, couple years. And I had a lot of physical problems, and I still, you know, I'm not manifesting that. I'm rejecting the paradigm of anything bad, you know, happening to me or any of my loved ones. You know, those thoughts are rejected. They are not accepted. But I was basically just, I had a lot of problems in the area where my surgery was, even afterwards. It was called an inguinal hernia, and it's like right there, like right around your waistline and such. And I got the surgery, and I hurt for so long. It took me so long to get my strength back. But with God's help, the help of my friends, the help of my loved ones, the help of my brothers, you know, my Mason brothers, and all my brothers and sisters, I have been able to heal myself again. I've met the real love of my life. You know, she's been such a great influence and inspiration in my life for helping to heal me, not only, you know, helping my body to relax and heal physically, but also healing my heart, allowing me to open my heart back up, because I had closed myself off for so long. But I just wanted to share that before I finish this video. I'm really excited to be doing videos again since it's been about a week and a half. I'm going to try to keep up on them, but I am also very busy. I love you all. I'm going to go ahead and jump off of here. Have a blessed day and take care.